Hello, everybody. Todd here, and I just wanted to let you guys know that we will be doing our very first live show this year at Panic Film Festival in Kansas City on April 15th at 1 p.m. Tickets are available right now at panicfilmfest.com, and please come see your favorite power throuple at Panic Fest in Kansas City on April 15th. This episode brought to you by the following patrons: Andrew, Sunzi, Stephanie, Wolfric, Natasha, Laura, Sophia, Garadika, Vance, Cody, Boeasy, Jeremy, Brother, Ali, Nathan, Jennifer with a PH, Mr. Ragebomb, Libby, Wes, Dreskel, Aaron, Kristen, Tia, Lauren, Jonathan, Kate, Alex, Isaac, and Karoon. But because it's that special time of the month, we also get to shout out our You Can Get It level sponsors, and they are Wendy, Alyssa, Sarah, Dharma, Grace, Stephanie, Amanda the Playwright, Leo, Alexandra, Emily, Brooklyn, Tori, Eli, Bryce, Sean, Logan, Dominic, Jamie, Alex, Shayna, Ali, Dr. Voorhees, MD, Matt, Megan, Amelia, Maxwell, Liza, Lisa, Courtney, AJ, Spider-Gwen, Lisa, Rock Donkey, Irene, Naomi, Bex, Mallory, Laura, Cameron, Kaylee, Casey, Daisy, Jackie, Alisa, Mushroom Snail Fox, Jennifer, and Michelle. And all the patrons want you to know you're loved, you're listened to, and you're a valuable member of the Horror Virgin community. If you want to hang out with us, do so in the Facebook group where we hang out with dolls daily.
I got punched by a guy at work this week.
A coworker or someone utilizing your services? Yeah.
Someone we were trying to help.
Okay.
And then like the next day they were like, "Hey, do you need a debrief?" And I was like, "I preferred to boxers." And this is why I always get in trouble.
I was going to say, did that person go, "We put him in charge of things"? Why did we do that?
It's amazing you don't have children with those level of dad jokes.
I was really proud of it too. Like I went around and told all the
Mikey,
different groups at the office.
How
I know.
could you not be proud of it? It's a perfect joke.
This is not appropriate for the workplace. Jokes in the workplace should be better than that. Thank you for tuning into Horror Virgin. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd, which means I don't like scary movies, but you guys make me watch them. And this week, the listeners made us watch
Dead Silence.
So was this the first time you guys had seen this movie?
Yes.
Same for me. What about you, Paige?
No, this is my first time.
Okay.
I remember seeing the cover of this film a lot. So I'd been aware of this movie, but had never had a desire to watch it. And even after digging into fun facts, I don't even think the people who made this want to watch it.
I think I'm going to compare this Malignant, not because I liked it as much as Malignant, just because
Malignant's so much better.
Well, I've just not seen a modern horror movie remind me of an 80s movie as much as this, except for Malignant, where
Sure, I get that.
I was like, it's like they time traveled Jason Stackhouse into an 80s movie, and I was like, oh, okay. Nothing makes sense. No one even owns a cell phone.
This is also pre-Jason Stackhouse, because I thought this was happening at the same time as True Blood.
Is it pre-Jason Stackhouse?
This is pre-True Blood.
Wow.
Jason Stackhouse.
What year did this come out?
This came out 2007.
Yeah, True Blood doesn't come out until I think until 2007. So I think he just barely.
It's got to be around the same time. Maybe.
Yeah. He did it right before, I think.
Okay, so this is before smartphones.
It is, but the cell phones were definitely a thing.
True Blood was 2008.
Yeah, so it literally was right after this.
Yeah.
But so nothing makes sense in the whole film. Nothing makes sense. And I'm like, why does he have to get on a boat to go to the theater? Is this Vienna's?
Well, Vienna's?
Mikey, it's Vienna, first off.
Venice. You're thinking of Venice.
I did wonder why, the local town theater, first off, was a Broadway level theater and had a fucking moat. What is happening?
I don't know. Here's the thing. As far as a spooky locale, an old theater with a moat, can't top it.
Oh,
that's absolutely great.
But they have to have built that. There is no moated theater anywhere.
In a one stoplight town, though?
I know. There's no way it would exist. But then my favorite part about it is that, he's like, "Oh, Henry's going to meet us here." I'm like, bruh, there is only a couple boats, and you already took them. How do you think he got that? Do you think that old man swam? What are you doing?
No.
Also, okay, this is going to sound bad. If your wife has dementia and keeps going into the cellar, get a lock.
Is she his wife? The movie never establishes.
I assumed wife as well.
I assumed wife. Or it doesn't matter.
It could be wife. I thought it could be younger sister.
I'm going to go ahead and say.
We don't know. We don't fucking know.
Fine, Paige. Agreed. If you are a caregiver for someone who is suffering from dementia and they keep wandering into the cellar, padlock the fucking
damn
door.
Cellar.
Yeah.
I honestly just couldn't get over like the opening credits. I was like,
oh, they're terrible, and they're like 5.5 minutes long.
I know, and it's so like hyper serious, but like close-ups of dolls and stuff. Like
this whole movie is hyper serious.
It takes itself so seriously, and I think that's why I think it's a good Mikey movie, because like they swing.
They did hard.
So hard.
And I was like,
they swing hard.
I think that this movie is very dumb, but I love it.
Dumb.
Yeah. Like
it's
so
not
dumb.
scary at all.
No, it's not scary at all.
I found parts of it pretty scary. I won't rate it nearly as high as I did last week, but this definitely wasn't like a 1 for me.
No, man, it was exciting. On the excitement scale, I get it up there because what that tongue do? You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah.
What a dumb backstory.
Oh, Mary.
Mary Shaw. Oh, lady.
If she didn't have such a great tongue, maybe she could have had kids of her own, you know?
Here's my thing. I feel like the difference between this and Malignant is that Malignant is wild all the way through. It's wild from the jump.
Yes.
And then in the third act, it's like, oh, you thought we were done? No. And then it ups the ante to the craziest thing you could ever think.
Oh, yeah.
This movie is super serious about things that they should maybe have more of a sense of humor about until the third act when it's like, oh, you thought we were done? This is kind of in line with what we've been doing, and it's just the dumbest version.
Let me sum that up. Malignant made an 80s film on purpose.
Yeah, I think so.
This film did it on accident.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a lightning in the bottle. And I was like, I could see the writer being like, I wrote this town, this like creepy backstory. And I'm like, there are 2 people in this town.
I'm going to blow a fun fact for you.
Okay, blow it.
So this is James Wan and Leigh Whannell.
Yeah.
And Leigh Whannell was so upset by this script and the final product that he never wrote this way again. He wrote everything on spec after. So like, apparently the studio came to them with like, this is our idea. And then they had to write based on the studio's idea. And then the studio meddled until it was fucking nuts, right? And so that's why Leigh Whannell has only ever written on spec after.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
It makes a lot of sense.
Because it feels like that. It feels like it's not as good as Saw or the other movies we've seen that they had their hand in.
Right.
So, like, that makes complete sense to me, Paige.
I would say Leigh Whannell's movies got progressively better, easily. And you can point to things like Invisible Man and shit like that are amazing.
I feel the same about James Wan.
Yeah, and so I think that was the right choice to no longer write to studio notes. But that's what happened with this movie. And I think that's part of why it's fucking nuts. This movie is crazy.
Yes.
Well, because I was like, I see the bones of what I think would be a good horror story there. And I was like, they just don't build anything around it.
No, there's so many like chances for this to be terrifying, and instead it's this weird backstory that everyone's so devoted to that makes no fucking sense. And so like that's what they build the scares around, and I'm like, you don't think ventriloquist dummies are inherently terrifying? Like, you could have had a Chucky ass dummy like running around and that would have been amazing. And no, we don't.
I was a little disappointed that the dummy didn't actually come to life and do stuff. Like, that would have been like, I guess he sort of does. Like, we see eye movements, we see head movements, but we never see him like run across and stab someone with a knife or rip their tongue out or whatever she does.
Face to death.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it, but that's essentially what they're doing, right?
That's how I want to go.
But like, I didn't want Mary Shaw doing that, especially because that makes the reveal very confusing. But also, it would be way more fun if it was the dummy doing it. And by the dummy, I don't mean Jason Stackhouse, although he is a dummy in this movie. I mean the actual ventriloquist dummy.
I would be fine if Mary Shaw was like making more dolls and possessing them all and like had to jump between dolls. But like showing her as a Dementor also ruins that.
Well, and also the scary, the scariest part of her part of the myth We don't learn until the fucking end. And I'm like, this is so terrifying. You could have been using it the whole time. And it's that once she kills you, she has your voice.
Yeah.
And she really only uses Henry. Like, she kind of does that in the beginning, but we don't understand why.
Too, yeah.
Once we understand why, it's way scarier. And now you know all these people are dead and she's tricking people. But then she only really uses it that one time for Henry, which he shouldn't have fallen for because of the fucking boats. But it is Jason Stackhouse, so you know.
He is a dummy. Yeah.
He is kind of a dummy.
Yeah. Here's what I love about this film. Mary Shaw, what that tongue do?
Right?
Right.
The fact that the coroner was like, she put in her will, she wanted me to turn her into a doll, so I did. And like, no questions asked.
No questions
I love that about this film.
Oh, yeah. I love how the coroner will just yes and any request in a will.
We have 5 different scenes in the same corner of a cellar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love that. Did they all shoot him at the same time? I wanted the whole behind the scenes. I thought this was like a commentary on like 2008 and like the collapse of the economy and stuff.
What?
Now you've just told me this takes place beforehand.
You thought there was any metaphor baked into this horror version
not
of
like
a Sesame
metaphor.
Street tale?
This is hard beforehand, and this was made when the collapse and the crash had not happened yet, so things were still good.
Yes. So when they go into the town and everybody's like going
She's
out of
just
business, I was
killed
like,
the
oh, it's
town.
like,
She's killed everyone in town and had to start outsourcing.
She literally has killed at least 100 people, right? Because there are 100 dolls.
Yeah.
I love that the dad being a dummy has telegraphed so far in advance.
Oh, it's telegraphed literally the first time you see the stepmom.
yes.
I thought she was doing it just for the money, though. Honestly, I didn't realize
Same.
that was Mary Shaw.
I thought she was mailing the dolls. Of like, I'm going to use this ghost to get the money.
Yeah. So here's my thing. Okay. I thought, because they abandoned the stepmother within the story for an hour at least, where she's just not on screen, right?
Yeah.
But the first time we met her, I was like, something's off with her. Something's crazy. And then as the movie progresses, I'm like, I think that dad might be dead. Something's off. But then you dismiss it because you're like, no, that would be too stupid. But then as the movie goes, when they reveal at the end, I was just like, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck this crazy movie.
I loved it, though.
This is not even a fun reveal. And it would have been more fun if we had gotten it 20 minutes earlier instead of 2 minutes before credits.
Yeah.
I another thing I love is they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're back.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I am sorry your wife died. And like, I was like, oh.
Oh, yo, that had like Pornhub acting vibes to me. She hugs him out of the blue, introduces herself as his stepmother, and then is like, why don't you come on in? I was like, okay, that's an invitation for something else.
Did you bring the pizza with the extra sausage? Yeah, I thought for sure there was going to be something like that. And then she's like at the funeral standing behind him. But then here's the thing. So they don't introduce the idea of creating the perfect doll. Like they put it in the credits and then they kind of like pepper it in at the very end. I'm like, how much scarier would this be if we got that reveal at the end of Act 2, beginning of Act 3, and now he has to basically defeat the ventriloquist version of Mithrigan? Like, what?
God, that would have been amazing.
That would make this Malignant. Like, then you've, like, because end of Act 2, beginning of Act 3 is when we find out that she has a full-ass person on her back in Malignant and starts running backwards. Like, we needed that moment in this movie, and we don't get it.
I thought we did get that moment where this big
But
tongue.
2 minutes before the credits roll.
When that tongue licked his face up and down, I was like, I'm here for all of this.
No.
I was like, Mary Shaw, I bet you could have married some dads back in the day with that thing going on.
She was using too much tongue, Mikey, and too much tongue can ruin a good thing.
Too much tongue on the face, Paige.
Too much tongue in general. It depends on how you're using that tongue. You got to be careful with how you're using that tongue.
I'm going to respectfully disagree.
Well, you're the one who kisses interesting, so we can't take
Todd.
your phone
Todd
into
only uses
account.
tongue, like Mary Shaw.
Todd is all tongue.
I lead with tongue.
Oh, he's like a snake where he tastes the air.
Is that why they do that?
Yeah.
I was today years old when I found out why snakes be like,
You mean you didn't know why your brethren did what they do?
Yeah.
brethren.
Yeah, you're like a snake. You taste the air.
And also my tongue is forked.
I mean, that could come in handy.
Or my tongue is for forking. That's what I should have said.
Oh, there you go. There you
That's
go.
the joke. All right. So maybe we should get into this movie so we can go through it scene by scene, question mark?
Yes.
I just need to talk about the worst detective.
Oh, you mean the Wahlberg
Yeah.
who didn't commit a hate crime?
Donnie Wahlberg?
Yeah.
Whose name is the same as his name in Band of Brothers?
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think you guys know. If there had been a ventriloquist dummy on 9/11, it wouldn't have
Well,
happened.
that's not the Wahlberg who said that, right?
No, it's not.
That is his brother and co-owner of Wahlburgers.
Wahlburgers,
Mark
which I've
Wahlberg.
never been to, but I am curious enough to try the next time I'm near one.
We don't have any here, so I haven't tried it, but yeah.
We don't have
I would
any
try
here.
that. I'd try that.
Sure.
But like, I'll bring a fun fact.
All right.
If your wife is murdered under mysterious circumstances in
Yeah,
your home, they don't let you go back 4 hours later.
No.
To the apartment
Of course
and then
not.
take evidence, material evidence in the case, and then drive it out of the city. Like he would be in jail so fast.
Oh, yeah. He would be in an interrogation room for 24 hours at least.
Yeah.
And the fact that he just like treats the doll like with respect at any point after, because he knows, he's like, I think the doll's involved in my wife's death.
I know.
I'm gonna put it in the back
He
seat.
tells the cops immediately and then doesn't immediately go home when they release him for no reason and then
Yeah.
burn the doll.
Yeah,
It's
Todd,
a wooden doll.
your philosophy is actually the cure to
I
all of this, which
know.
is if he would have burned everything in the first place, I think he'd have been okay.
Honestly, cross the moat with a bunch of gasoline, set the theater alight, and then call it a night. That was an unfortunate rhyme, but it's true.
He needs to burn the Vienna down.
Vienna's is not a word.
Vienna.
Oh my God.
Vienna.
No, that's the southern Vienna. It's this whatever town this is. I mean this.
This is Ravens something.
Birdland.
But isn't it more fun to call it Vienna's?
No. It's not. Just because it sounds too much like piano.
It's Ravensfair. I just checked my notes.
Ravensfair. Here was my thing that because I watched this a day before you guys did because I thought we were recording yesterday. I have spent the last day noodling on the fact that a Ring camera or some sort of other security system like that would have solved this case immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Because it would have showed when he left the house and when he came back and who was inside and any triggered alarms in the house. So his alibi would have been concrete, basically.
Well, that's
Yeah,
assuming
probably.
that they lock down the time of death to the exact right time, and they normally can't get that close. So they would assume he went out for Chinese food to establish an alibi, came back and killed his wife, and then called the cops.
Well, but remember, he calls.
I know.
So he calls and there's cameras in your house.
Not back then.
Cameras in whose house?
Not back then, but if you have a Nest system, you can include internal cameras
Yeah.
in your house.
Yeah, and then you can hand them over and then show yourself hiding evidence like Aaron Rodriguez.
Exactly. But it would have shown him coming back and discovering her dad and not being there when she died. So
Yeah.
I have outside cameras. I don't have inside cameras.
I don't have inside cameras either. They make me nervous.
they make me nervous as well.
Yeah.
But also, what if I want to commit an Aaron Rodriguez level crime?
Well, then you don't want them inside. We've already been
Don't
over
want them
this.
inside.
I'd be like, the battery was low.
A lot of your motivations for doing things or not doing things are too close to I may need to commit murder at some point, and I don't want to
You
do
never
that because
know,
it'll make it easier
Todd.
to catch me.
Todd, what if you have to commit murder?
Why would you murder anybody?
It could
So
be
much
self-defense,
self-defense?
like The Fugitive. I know that's the example we
I
cite
didn't
every
kill
time.
my
but still,
wife.
I don't care, Mikey.
See, they don't care, Todd.
I don't care.
The wheels of justice grind people up.
They're just trying to catch someone. They're not actually trying to see if it's the right one.
Oh, are you looking for me to defend cops? Because that's not
No,
going to happen.
of course not.
Okay,
I didn't expect
I was
that.
yeah, they do be doing that though. Yeah,
Yeah. No, I wasn't looking to Todd to be no, prison privatization is good and the prison industrial complex is A-okay.
No.
I was not looking.
It's not bad. Nobody wants to work anymore.
oh,
No. Carceral system is modern day slavery. Talk about it. Anyway.
yeah.
Should we talk about this movie?
I said that 15 minutes ago. Absolutely, we should. Let's get into it.
Who would you murder first is all I'm saying.
Jason Stackhouse, because he's an idiot in this
How
movie.
dare you? There's a shortage of perfect abs in this world. 'Twould be a pity to damage his.
I'll buy you some King's Hawaiian rolls. It's fine, Paige.
He's got some Hawaiian rolls.
He does.
In this movie, we don't see him shirtless at all. We don't see the Hawaiian rolls. We got to wait for True Blood for that. And thank God True Blood gave it to us in spades.
Wait, I wrote this down, but I forgot to mention it in my list of things I loved. Donnie Wahlberg unburies 100 dolls.
Yes.
He digs up all one.
Do you know how long that would take?
It would take days. Like days. It would take so long, Paige. 100 dolls?
And the movie just throws it at you like it's serious police work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's Wicker
I
Man
dug
levels
them
of
all
police
up.
work, but he was
What?
so into it.
It is Wicker Man levels of police work done by a police department of one. There
Of
is
one.
never anyone else outside that one female officer he sexually assaults, before interviewing Jason Stackhouse.
Harasses, not assaults.
That's fair. Harasses. Yeah, sexually harasses.
Okay, there was a point at which I walked away to get a glass of something to drink, and I must have missed that because I don't have that in my notes. So please tell me about it when we get there.
He's like, you always read my thoughts. She doesn't show up again ever because
Because she filed a complaint against Donnie Wahlberg.
Yeah.
I don't think it was sexual harassment. I do think he was probably fired for being terrible.
Yeah, they were like, hey, Donnie, where have you been all week? And he was like, I've been digging up 100 dolls. They're like, what? Just tell us you took a vacation. Like, what are you saying?
You can't expense this doll shovel, man.
Where do you even buy a dolled shovel?
At a doll house, a doll store, doll hardware store.
It's for the Ken Home Fix-It kit.
For Barbie's Dream Cemetery.
At work this week, I heard of one of our people who was in a crisis. They were like, you look like Ken. And the person was like, why? Because I'm handsome. They're like, no, because you're fucking stupid.
Oh my
And we
God.
don't believe you have a dick.
That
I was like, oh, that's such a good burn.
amazing. Let's get into the movie so we can power through it.
Okay. I clicked on whatever one was available on Amazon and it was like, this contains additional material. And I was like, additional material?
Yes, I watched the unrated version,
I think
which
we all did.
seemed like if I had to rate it, would be PG-13.
By the way, the unrated version, 93 minutes. So I was like, what was this before?
87 minutes.
87 minutes?
Yeah, I watched the unrated version as well, though. I don't think they added any unrated quote unquote shit into it. It's just a little bit longer.
I think they just added the rest of the credits to get us to that 93
That's
minutes.
what it was.
Look, those credits, that took a lot of work on iMovie, okay?
Yeah.
And then they added the additional Universal logo because we get the regular Universal logo and then we get like an old-timey Universal logo, which, by the way, doesn't really make sense for this movie. Like, there's a flashback, but it's not like the movie thing.
I think it does make sense, Paige, and I'll tell you why. Because the movie is taking place contemporarily timed, right? So like 2007, right? But there's also this whole storyline from like the 1910s or 30s or whatever.
That we only get 15 minutes of at the end of Act 2.
Listen, that's fair. I'm not saying this is a perfect movie. I'm saying they did their best with a bonkers script.
They did.
I'm going to say it's a perfect movie.
All right.
I mean, the color correction would argue with you.
I do like that this is an accidental Mikey movie. That makes sense to me when you explain the difference, Mikey.
Yeah.
It's harder to do it on purpose.
It is.
This is a traditional.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think I've seen many movies that do it on purpose, like crush that ask like Malignant did.
Because I was like, Lee Winnell must be really pissed that this happened. Like, I thought that when I watched the credits, when I was like, these are not bad people.
Here's the thing. I bet if you gave Lee Winnell the assignment of like specifically writing a fucking bonkers movie, he would, and it would be better than this. Does that make sense?
I absolutely agree. This feels like it was a video game adaptation, but the studio did no job in playing the game or researching the game. They were just like, oh, maybe the coroner does a bunch of shit for no reason.
This movie bordered on Phantasm levels of crazy for me. It made me want to watch more Phantasm movies.
Honestly,
personally.
Same. Someone posted the meme in the Horror Virgin Facebook group the other day, and it was like that kid in the crowd that says, your music saved my life. And then like the bottom of that picture is the ice cream dude and the main guy from Phantasm playing guitar. And I was like, I love this meme. Like, that's amazing. That's so fucking funny. Anyway, let's go through this movie scene by scene.
Okay. So we get through the old Universal logo, and then they put a thing up on the screen that just says, in the 6th century BC, it was believed that the spirits of the dead would speak through the stomach region of the living, and that's where we get the word ventriloquism, for vent or for belly, and loqui meaning speak. And that would have been like the Roman Empire. Basically, that is the most bonkers quote to include it only kind of makes sense because of ventriloquism in this movie, but it's way over serious for what we are about to encounter.
Well,
Yeah.
depending what I eat, there's definitely been evil in my belly.
Oh, my belly has been talking for like 8 hours. Just behind the
In
scenes,
Latin.
I have had food poisoning all night and then got up to record this morning. And you know what? Hey, I may have to run out of the room and try to get out of this weird unitard that I'm wearing fast enough to poop. We'll see what happens.
That age-old problem.
Gotta roll those dice.
So we enter the credits, which are no shit, like 5 minutes long. They are the longest credits on earth.
They are super long. And they're just like pictures of ventriloquist dummies designs.
It's 10% of the movie. Yeah.
We do see a hand writing over and over again to make the perfect doll, which will not come back until the last 2 minutes of the film.
100% forgot it.
I legit also forgot it, Mikey.
Yeah. What if it was all these freaky credits, but then it was just a Jeff Dunham comedy special?
I thought about him. I was like, there's not a lot of ventriloquist stuff out there right now.
There's not. I mean, there's a reason.
Yeah. Okay, so the perfect doll thing makes me wonder, the stepmom, was the stepmom a doll?
Yes.
Or was she Mary Shaw?
No, she was a doll. A doll puppeting another doll.
Which is what you want if you're looking to find a stepmom for your children.
But okay, then who was controlling that doll? And why at the end of the movie do you see Mary Shelley's face sort of superimposed over that
Okay.
doll's face?
Because Mary Shelley, not Mary Shelley.
Mary Shaw.
Mary Shaw.
Mary Shaw.
I did it first. That's my bad, Paige.
I mean, this is a little Frankenstein-y, but Mary Shaw inhabits, like her spirit inhabits the dolls.
One doll at a time, Todd. So she can't be the dad and the stepmom at the same time. She's got to be the stepmom and control the dad.
No. I understand that part of it, which is why she ripped his spine out and replaced it with a wood pole that accurately depicts a human's face. Anyway.
I would say, though, I would let Mary Shaw's tongue hollow me out. Know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. Fully sane, Mikey. Don't tell Paige I said it, but fully fucking sane.
We just find your corpses cored out like cows that have encountered
It
aliens.
seems like their intestines were sucked out through their anus, and I don't know why, but I've never seen a pink sock to this degree before.
This is more like a pink... No, I'm not gonna.
He's been pink socked to death.
I'm going to go ahead and say that this generation is the throat goat. We got Mary Shaw. We've got Deborah Logan. We got all of these big head game.
You mean the silent generation? No, before the silent generation, whatever that
The
was.
greatest generation at going down is Deborah Logan and Mary Shaw.
They had Mary Shaw. They had Deborah Logan. They had Nancy Reagan. That's all of them.
It's because birth control didn't exist, Paige. This was like adaptation. It's like evolution.
God, Mikey, you are absolutely
hold on,
right.
no.
Having presented zero evidence, Mikey, I 100% know you're correct. That has to be it.
Hold on. Mikey, I just want to recap your theory.
Yeah, please
so that
recap.
I correctly understand. You believe that the greatest generation underwent genetic mutations.
Well, I wouldn't call it genetic mutations. It's more of an evolution.
No, Mikey said genetic mutations.
Adaptation. An adaptation.
Like an evolution. Yeah.
Life finds a way.
Yeah, like Jurassic Park type shit.
Throats find a way, Paige.
Yeah.
Because they had no birth control to enable better mouth game. Do I understand you correctly?
I'm saying maybe we've lost that since birth control was invented. This was thousands of years leading up to Mary Shaw.
I feel like this is neither of you know my mouth game, and I feel attacked.
Can your tongue hollow out a man?
How do you know Jake's my first husband?
Jake's been a puppet the whole time we've known him, Mikey.
She likes shoulders because that's where she puts her hand in to control him.
Exactly. She likes big shoulders because it makes it easier to work all the components.
I always wondered why Jake's hands look like puppets.
I always wondered why Jake walks like a marionette, and now I know why.
Now you know why.
He's been cored out.
That's why we had to get a house, because we got like a whole bunch of strings. Jake just texted from the kitchen. Excuse me?
Mary Shaw,
Yeah.
Deborah Logan, Nancy Reagan. What other evidence do you need?
This is the point in the trial where Mikey would drop his mic and walk away.
Humanity was headed to perfection and science ruined it.
So wait, I just want to point out that Mikey is now saying that the world was ruined by birth control.
No, there's tons of bonuses, but we did lose the adaptation of Great Throat Game.
I don't know that anyone actually has lost it. Maybe it's just the people that you've been with, Mikey.
But we don't know. That generation is dying out. We just don't know, Todd. All we have is the best of our generation, which who knows? We don't have people who can eat people by unhinging their jaw. We definitely don't have people who have tongues as big as my arm. Where are they?
Mikey is looking for you ladies. Mikey asked me that like he was like really wondering where they are. Like, I need the answer to this because that is where I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I get it.
Anyway, back to this movie. So it's these crazy credits about the perfect doll. They're super long. We cut to Jason Stackhouse working on plumbing in his apartment.
Right.
And he and his wife are discussing dinner. They decide to get takeout.
Wait, this is also a porn scenario. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, a little bit.
But like, there's so many porn scenarios in this movie. Just saying that.
Hey, little lady, I'm here to work on your pipes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason Stackhouse.
I'm here to fix those pipes.
I'd be like, let's call the landlord because I don't want to do this.
Exactly. You're renting that place clearly. This is not your job.
Yeah, I did miss, because he just has like a generic American accent. I missed the Jason Stackhouse accent.
Oh,
Yeah.
you mean his really bad Southern attempt?
Yeah, bonkers
Yes.
Southern
But
adjacent
this movie
is my
would have
favorite.
worked better with his Southern accent.
Yeah, Ravensfair might be in South Carolina. Who cares?
You don't know, cut the sleeves off all his shirts and let's go.
Yeah.
If he just started haymakering dummies at the end, I would have lost my shit, Paige.
Just drinking out of a pitcher of beer from the side. You know, Jason Stackhouse shit.
Let me throw my electric lantern at this wall to start a fire. It obviously was not a glass lantern. It had LED lights.
That drove me nuts.
LED lights are very flammable in certain plot situations, Mikey.
Oh, okay.
Well, but also I was like, who would just leave an LED lantern around at a place where no one's
They're
supposed to
expensive.
go?
Yeah.
He didn't bring those. Like, we saw him cross the river with no lantern, and then he has 2 lanterns.
Yeah, and that building is fucking condemned. So, like, no one's supposed to be there. Like, what is it? Anyway, someone's outside the door. The doorbell rings. They open it, and there's a giant fuck off package addressed to him. Now, I don't know about you, but if I didn't remember ordering something huge like that, I'd be concerned.
I'd open it immediately.
I would definitely not open it unless I knew like there was a return label on it, and I was like, oh,
Yes.
my mom sent this, or
Right.
someone who would send me a package without like letting me know in advance, like a family member or something.
If
Right.
there's no labels on it, it's like finders keepers.
Yeah, it is like finders keepers. You kick it over to your neighbor and let them die.
Yeah.
No, it's a big package. It could be like a sound bar or something, like, But like if it doesn't
Mikey.
have somebody's label on there.
Mikey, you're risking potential death for a sound bar? This episode brought to you by Sonos.
It was too big to be a bomb.
It was not too big to be a bomb. Bombs come in many sizes.
It's huge. It's a huge package. I think a bomb is more of a
I'm
shoebox.
sorry. It was too big to be a bomb is never anything any bomb expert has ever said.
Have you ever seen The Rock?
This is a funny thing. Like somebody mailing anthrax, but it's like 14 boxes in a row. Like we have to open one. You're like, oh my god! You open another.
There's
There's
another
white
one.
powder. You're like, oh my god!
It's like a Russian nesting doll of
Yeah,
presents, but the last one is just death.
I had a package misdelivered to my home, but it had who it was meant to. So I drove a block that way and then delivered the package. And I was like, this is kind of fun. I see why people do this. And I was like,
You mean why mail carriers do their job?
yeah, it's kind of like, oh, things have a purpose. I get it. And then, but if they had no like labels on it, it was just a big ass box on my door, I would open it, but I would open it outside.
Yeah.
And that way, if something bad was in it, I could call 911 immediately, like a body or something.
Who's gonna mail you a body?
Probably a body part. I don't know. Like, I don't think it's going to be a bomb because it would take a lot of work just to kill me when you could just come kill me, Like a gun is much easier to build a big ass bomb.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to someone who can't build a bomb, so yeah, I would assume shooting a gun is easier.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just point and click. And then like
It's like using a mouse, apparently.
yeah. So if you have a big unlabeled package on your front porch, I was like, oh, my neighbors must have got me something like I open. Maybe it's like a yard sign or something. But if it was a ventriloquist doll, I would immediately burn it in the backyard.
Yes.
Yeah, here's what I don't understand. He's from the town where everyone's terrified of ventriloquist dummies. Like, he knows the poem. His wife even says the poem, and yet they bring the doll inside. They don't immediately like, oh, it's this? Fuck this. Like, burn it, put it out. Nothing. They're like, no, let's put it on our bed.
Yeah. Let me scare my husband with his childhood trauma.
Yeah.
I think the best part is they don't fully open it because she doesn't even hide that it's her doll. She sends it in a prepackaged box with her labeling on it.
It looked like a guitar case.
She's like, oh, it's Mary Shaw's dolls.
Yeah. No, they know it's her. Anyway, so they get the package. He goes out for takeout. He comes home and she is dead. While he's been gone, she was like arranging the doll. And then the thing that happens before the doll attacks people is all the ambient sound goes silent.
Yeah, it sort of sounds like they go deaf a little bit, which I didn't quite understand what was happening until later in the movie. I wondered if they were like gonna say something was going on like in her brain that made her like hallucinate or something. And part of that was her losing the ability to hear, but it wasn't that at all. It's just that that's what happens when the dolls get possessed.
A doll that looks like John Lovitz that is possessed.
Acting! Murder! Sorry.
Whoever's like puppeting him.
That's what's way more accurate. I did think it was crazy that she set it up to scare her husband in bed on purpose. Like, maybe you don't deserve what happens to you, but that's also a shitty thing to do.
It is. Also, this is where I noticed that the mix on the dialogue in this movie is real low.
Yeah.
You're not missing anything.
No.
Just the dialogue.
Just the dialogue. She turns on the tea kettle. She sets up the doll in the bed and has the radio on, and we hear the radio kind of warp. We hear the sound of the tea kettle warp. And then she goes out into the living room. Everything's distorted. The clock stops. The kettle whistles and stops.
Yeah.
And then she hears like a child's laughter and looks back at the doll, which is still under the sheet. But then there's lightning. So there's like a flash. The sheet blows up and envelops her. And then we hear like the sound of knives, which never comes back. That's never a thing.
No, the sheet throws her 40 feet. Then she throws up a pint of blood for some reason.
Well, not yet. She gets enveloped in it, right? And then you hear the sound of knives being sharpened. Like, it's a very clear Foley.
It is a very clear Foley, and I think it's meant to be that she got stabbed, but that's not the sound effect they drop in.
But she doesn't get stabbed because it goes through the autopsy report in like 10 minutes.
Yes.
Oh my God, she didn't get stabbed?
No.
Then why is she coughing up blood?
We don't know. This makes no sense.
Because when they do the autopsy report, they're like, there's no clear signs of death except her tongue was removed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, her tongue removed was drastic. In my mind, Mary Shaw just wanted to kill the baby, and so it stabbed her in the stomach, and then Sparta kicked her out of the room, and then that killed her. I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess none of that actually happened. That's just what I told myself while watching it.
If she was stabbed in the stomach, he definitely would have been arrested.
Yeah, no, she is not stabbed. They can't figure it out.
Crazy.
And this is the scene where we kind of get a hint that maybe she's pregnant, but it doesn't confirm it. But it throws her out of the room. She barfs up a ton of blood from an injury, from something we don't know. It drags her back into the room where she screams. Cut to Jason Stackhouse comes home.
I don't think she was pregnant because Mary Shaw likes ventriloquist dummies, not
what
baby
word was that?
dolls.
It literally says that she was, and that's why she killed her.
It says it out loud in the movie. Sorry, the dialogue was mixed
I know the dialogue mix was really low.
No, I got it when she put the pillow in her stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so he comes home, turns off the tea kettle, and is like, are you trying to burn the house down? Like, what the fuck? And then sees her dead. And it's kind of like The Ring.
Yes.
With the dead faces, where it's like,
specifically the dead face in the closet, right? Where it's like a horror type reveal. That reveal got me, honestly. A lot of the stuff, like in the early this first kill was super creepy, and I did not like it. Like during the credits, I was like, there's no way this movie's gonna be scary. I'm not gonna be scared of a little doll. This is dumb. But like the doll is a little creepy.
I guess. Anyway, the police are there because he's the prime suspect, obviously, because he's the spouse, lived alone.
He, in their eyes, would be the murderer. Like,
Yeah.
I think that
100%.
there's no way for him to prove he didn't do it. And he is yelling about a doll that killed his wife. He would go to jail forever.
Oh, if this was real life, he would go to jail for a million bajillion years because his dummy of a father, literal dummy, couldn't pay all of Papa's millions to get him out of jail. So like,
Well, yeah, his father's dead at this point. Mary Shaw would be like, let him rot.
Mikey was actually doing the ventriloquist like hand motion while he said that too.
yeah.
Mikey fully commits to all of his bits.
Yeah.
So Donnie Wahlberg is the detective, and he's just like, only somebody high as a kite would pose her like that. Never seen a face like it. And I was just like, what? And he's like, your mistake was the rose, because he bought her a rose when he went out to get takeout. He's like, guys always do that and think there'll be an alibi. And I was like,
He missed the best line.
Yeah.
Because he's like, if I had $1 for every time a man brought a rose the day he killed his wife, I would have said, if I had a rose every time a man bought a rose every time he killed his wife, I've had a full bouquet.
And now I'm going to book you into jail for murdering your wife.
yeah. Here's where the movie immediately started to break down for me.
By the way, we're 3 minutes in, but go
3
on.
minutes into it. Absolutely the prime suspect. Totally.
Technically, we're 15 minutes in because of the credits.
That's true. Yeah.
And like, I've watched enough episodes of Law and Order to be like, he's going away for life. Like, I
Dun,
understand. Dun 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 dun.
You mean to tell me
The
that a
rose,
puppet
dun, dun,
came
dun,
to
dun.
life and murdered your wife? I don't believe it.
Yeah, exactly. You got it, Ice. So here's where my episodes of Law and Order knowledge comes in. He went and got takeout. That takeout place almost certainly has security cameras, and even if they don't, he has a receipt with a time on it. So like, if anyone saw him come back into that apartment building when they did, and they know when he called 911, he is probably at least going to have probable doubt. So if he has CCH Pounder as his lawyer, they're fucking done, man. He's not going to jail.
CCH Pounder is a force to be reckoned with in Law and Order.
Yes.
Special Puppets Unit.
Yes.
I'm Finn Tutuola from Special Puppets Unit. We're on the marionette case.
In New York City.
In the criminal justice system, puppet-based offenses are considered especially heinous. In Ravensfair, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Spectral Puppet Unit.
Anyway, so she also has no defensive wounds. And they're like, we don't understand how you cored her tongue out of her face, but can you tell us? It's like,
Also,
what?
I don't need to know how a murderer murdered somebody or got a body into a certain state. I just need to get them in jail.
Yeah. Well, and again, he would absolutely go to jail after this, at least to await trial, unless he could post bail, right? But it's probably going to be a cash only bail. So like, tough. So A, it's unlikely he'd be getting out. B, they definitely wouldn't let him go back to the apartment. That's an active crime scene, dude. Like, what? No.
And he's just walking around at home. Like, there's still
Just
blood
walking
on the
around.
floor. There's still the doll in the house. Like, what is happening?
Here's where I gotta, PSA. Call a lawyer
No.
every time. Like, call a fucking lawyer. And he doesn't. He never calls a lawyer.
No, he buys Donnie Wahlberg's, listen, I'm just trying to help your lawyer establish possible
Bullshit.
doubt. So, tell me as
Bullshit.
much as you can about how you killed your wife. And he's just like, well, I'm Jason Stackhouse and I'm an idiot. So let me tell you everything I know.
Don't tell them shit. I don't care. I know that you're innocent, and you're like, no. It's all a misunderstanding. And if I tell them, they'll explain. No, they're trying to close a case. Call a fucking lawyer every time. So he goes back to the apartment. And actually, before he does tell Donnie Wahlberg, because Donnie Wahlberg is like, yeah, I don't think a puppet did this. He's like, you're not from our town. You don't understand. Where puppets are evil. Everyone knows about the evil puppets. And you're just like, what? Where do you live? Willy Wonka's a factory? Like, what are we talking about? It's weird.
It is very weird. And yeah, I mean, this whole thing is nuts.
It's the worst interrogation I've ever seen on film, almost.
Yeah, and Donnie Wahlberg is just like, I've never arrested a dummy, but I've arrested a bunch of husbands. And I was like, statistically, he's right.
Accurate, yeah. And I bet a lot of those husbands were also dummies, so...
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, it depends. Sometimes it's the fugitive and people are setting you up. That's why you have to leave room for yourself to need to kill someone for self-defense.
Paige is just worried that she's going to be like out and about and then Finn Tutuola is going to roll up on her.
I trust Ice, and I feel like his wife Coco and I would get along. So I'm not afraid of him.
He's not going to arrest you to his house, Paige. He's not like, Paige, you're under arrest for not being my wife's best friend. That's not how, okay, that may be how Ice T actually works, but that's not how Finn Tutuola works.
I just want to be her best friend. Anyway, so they're not going to arrest him. They're like, you're free to go. But he doesn't tell him not to leave the state, or the city, which he should because he references it later, but we don't see it on screen. So he rolls up back to an active crime scene, steals evidence, which is the doll, touches everything.
Yes.
Also evidence.
It is wild to me that his apartment is not like under investigation.
It is. There's tape. There's tape there, and he just walks under it.
I mean, like active investigation where people are still there, like taking photos and shit.
Still there taking photos?
They should be still processing the scene. It's like later that night. It would take a day
It would
to
take
process
hours.
that.
Yeah. Anyway, he rips open the puppet case, also evidence, revealing Mary Shaw and Billy inside. And he just like grabs that doll and drives the most fuck off fancy vintage muscle car in cherry ass red to this town.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a rich man's son, Paige.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
No, here's the thing though, because I couldn't figure this out at first, because I was just like, poor apartment, like he's doing his own plumbing. Like if this was me, this would be just like a beat up Toyota Corolla or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's this weird fuck up fancy car. And I'm just like, you don't put a fancy car like this here unless there's a reason for it. The reason for it is just to play with color theory and have it be cool red against everything else gray.
And everything in this movie is shot through like a blue filter and the contrast is brought down so it looks gray.
Well, only from this point forward.
Yeah.
Because the beginning is not.
It's wild.
Ravensfair is very depressed, so it's blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ravensfair it's like gray and red. And I think it's meant to look old-timey and kind of circusy, but just to have that kind of old-timey vaudeville vibe. But I don't know if it was their budget at the time or just the skills available at the time and the technology available at the time. But
I don't know. The Matrix came out and they did a really good filter.
Yeah, but they didn't do this exact thing. That's a very different, because what they're trying to do here is color everything. And I used to do this at the time, in student films and stuff, where you can essentially choose to ignore all but one color. And so that you can make that one color pop out. Right?
Yeah, it's like Sin City or something like that.
Yeah,
that kind
and
of
Sin
stylistic
City
stuff.
is only a couple years before this, by the way.
Yeah.
So Sin City had done it, right? But in order to do that, it still includes that color in other places where that color is present. And unless you are like Sin City, where you have very specifically filmed to include certain colors, or you're doing very, very detailed rotoscoping, that color is going to show through. And that's kind of what happens to this movie, where they're just like, everything is gray except for a little bit of the color of people's skin and this red car.
Yeah.
Which just makes people look gray through most of this movie. It's a wild bad choice. It looks terrible. And it was very clearly done in editing, not in camera when they were filming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. Anyway, the whole town, as he's driving into Ravensfair, is closed up and going out of business. We will find out it's because Mary has just killed everybody.
I was like, when he was driving by, the town is fucked. It looks like like a post-apocalyptic town 15 years after the apocalypse, right?
It looks like the city from Children of the Corn.
Yeah, exactly. And there is just a dude on a bench reading the paper as he's driving through this dilapidated town. I would have stopped and been like, did this town get bombed? What is happening?
Well, and the only thing that seems to be open is his dad's house. We don't know what his dad does or why he's crazy fuck off rich.
Yeah.
Or the mortuary. Those are the only two things open, really.
Well, I mean, that makes sense to me because the only thing happening in this town for the past 70 years has been Mary Shaw killing people. So the only two businesses that are required are a creepy mansion and a funeral home.
Anyway, he goes up to his dad's house. And at this point, I was like, the cops are definitely going to think he did it because he skipped town.
Yes.
Like, what?
The fact that Wahlberger shows up later in the movie to arrest him, I was like, that is what should happen.
Of course.
He didn't kill his wife. We know he didn't. But if you were the suspect in your wife's murder and then you skip town, they're going to arrest you. Just like OJ.
I mean, we know that that he's following him at some point. But how did he know to go to that city? Because he gets a whole day or whatever before he's being followed.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of holes. A lot of holes in this movie.
Yeah. And if we tried to fill them, it would take us years. We can't.
Yeah,
we can't.
It would take us as long as unearthing 100 dolls. So he goes to his dad's house and is met by his stepmother, Ella. And she's just like, please come in. We're so glad you're here. Sorry about your wife dying. And he's like, yeah. And we hear his dad upstairs. We will find out later she's throwing her voice.
Yeah.
But she's like, yeah, no, your father's a changed man. He's like, then you're not married to my father. You don't fucking know this guy. We fought for years. He's an asshole. And he shows up and she's like, here's your dad in a wheelchair. And he's like, my son, a pleasant surprise. I had a stroke a few months ago. That might explain why I've been different. And he's like, you don't return my calls, so I just kind of stopped trying. As opposed to just I'm dead, and so I sit here, or whatever.
Well, I mean, they can't reveal that right away. It is very clear, though, that she is operating him in every scene that they are in, his dad and his stepmom.
Yeah.
And I sort of dig that, the way they sort of forecast the reveal. I love.
I thought she was a gold digger. That's all I thought.
I thought she was a gold digger,
because I was
too.
he's clearly dying. He looks like a dummy already. She's definitely going to make him into a dummy. And at some point, he's going to be like, blah, 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 blah,
Yes.
blah, with his dummy mouth.
Yeah.
Well, and she offers to do the arrangements for the wife, which made me think that she was going to turn the wife into a dummy.
Oh, that's why I think that's right.
Yeah, she doesn't because he takes care of it.
Yes. Although she does at the end, right?
No, his wife never comes back.
No, but they all get turned into dummies at the end.
Oh, yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, he came there to ask about the poem about Mary Shaw. And I was like, this could have been a phone call.
Right?
Right?
There's no phones in Ravensfair, Paige.
Apparently not. And he tells her the poem and Ella finishes it. And he's like, okay, well, I think it's bullshit, but there's something weird. Somebody sent me this dummy. I don't know who did.
Yeah.
And she's just like, well, people are superstitious. And he's like, yeah, okay. And then she says, why won't you stay the night? Which I think she was going to try and kill him that night.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But also, stepmom, almost the same age as the stepson.
I was like,
I got that vibe.
You see where this is going, right?
I'm familiar with Pornhub, yes.
The perfect puppet, quote unquote.
The perfect doll.
Ooh.
A real doll, if you will.
Ugh.
So he leaves. We cut to the funeral home where we first meet Marion, who is talking to a very fake bird. And her husband, brother, unclear. Does not ever clarify. He only ever refers to her as Marion.
She could be his worst employee. I don't know anything about their relationship.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. There are times that I got a very younger sister vibe.
That would explain the love she has for him at the end when she's crying at his death,
Yes.
right? If that was if that was my boss, well, my boss is my best friend. If that was one of my former bosses, I wouldn't be crying and holding them. I'd be like, "Oh no, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna leave. I guess I get the day off."
Yay. It could be wife. It could be. We
It
don't
could be.
know.
We literally have no idea. There is no romantic feelings between them, though.
Yes. And so that's the part that I was like, I don't know if this is wife because of some of the ways that he interacts with her regarding her fear of Mary Shaw are very childlike. Now that could be because she has, dementia or something and he's just meeting her where she is.
Yeah.
But it very much read to me as an older brother who has always had to make sure his sister was not afraid anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
a younger sister?
Yeah.
Anyway, the movie, don't clarify.
Yeah, the movie doesn't say. We're just reading that from the performance of the actor. No idea what's real or not.
No clue. Anyway, Jason Stackhouse is like, I've got to bury my wife. And they're like, well, have you spoken to her family yet about casket choices? And I'm just like, no, but this sounds like a terrible conversation to have. And I feel bad for anyone who has to have it.
I've had it a few times. It does suck.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, cool. You want this type of funeral? It's $13,000.
Yeah.
And you're like,
you chose casket. You've chosen about 20 grand, sir.
How much is being taxidermied?
A lot more.
I didn't know you could make taxidermy a verb, but now I'm going to use it like that every time.
Well, Mary Shaw got like halfway there, man. They made her into a dummy.
Yeah.
You know that he was like, what's that tongue do? The Greatest Generation.
Wank.
This is one of many reasons why I'm a cremation type bitch. That and you better kill me. Don't you dare put my body in the ground until you know I'm dead. That's just a personal preference.
I don't really care what you do to me when I die. I'll be dead.
Oh, yeah? Is that true?
Mikey, why did you say that you wanted to fuck me once I'm dead?
Just saying. What if I make you into a ventriloquist dummy and then like dance you around like a marionette?
Whatever. I'm not in it anymore. You can have it. That's why I'm an organ donor.
You guys heard it. I get Todd's body if he dies.
Well, not you. I mean, like, I'd rather, like, my organs get put to use or whatever.
You know, you've already agreed to it. This is legally binding.
Yeah, I'm also an organ donor because, again, I don't care.
Same.
As I've always said, I know if I die now and I die alone in my house, my dog will eat my body, mostly. But if I don't, I would like to be cooked in one giant lasagna, which is 2 lasagnas put on top of each other.
Fuck you.
And fed to people at my celebration of life.
I'm not coming to your funeral.
I'm definitely not eating that lasagna.
And then a video just shows and I say, now I'm inside you.
Nope. I hate this.
Like I've always wanted to be to everyone there.
I was going to say, why don't you just have your ashes put into some dildos or something and hand them out to ladies you like? But that's probably a little forward.
Hey, ladies, you want a death dough?
No, a kildo?
Kill dough works better because the L sound's also in there.
Yep.
I don't dough. Did I try to overly sexualize this episode because of her tongue? I did. I'm sorry.
I don't think you tried. I think Lee Wanell and James Wan succeeded in over-sexualizing this episode.
I mean, they did copy paste multiple tongues onto that tongue, so...
I'm just saying, I'd fuck a Dementor now, and I never thought I would. You know what I'm saying?
Even though they suck all the joy out of the experience, are you like, this is
What
normal?
woman doesn't?
Oh my dear sweet Lord.
Deserve to be single.
Is there ever any question as to why he is, Paige?
No.
Zero question. I mean, killer joke though. Loved it.
Yeah, thanks.
Just like watching you continue dig this hole is very funny.
This
to
is
me.
a hole almost as much as digging for 100 different ventriloquist dummies.
It does feel like you've taken 100 different swings at that joke and all have failed. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Anyway, we cut to the motel where he just like brings the doll into the motel with him.
Yeah.
As you do.
Yeah. You often take around the thing you're claiming killed your wife to every other location you go to.
Yeah, it's weird. Anyway,
It's very weird.
Much like his apartment, the ambient noise disappears. The dummy seems to be moving.
Yeah.
And then he sees Mary Shaw, but he doesn't scream.
No, because if he did, it would be over for him because you can't scream in her presence. It will trigger her into mouth fucking you.
Mouth killing you?
I love that when this ghost attacks, it just sounds like the power went off at your house.
Yeah. You're like, no, the fridge.
Keep it closed, keep it closed.
My white noise, where is it?
So we watch as a hearse pulls into town to the mortuary. This is the wife's body.
Mm-hmm.
But this is also the first time that we see Marion go down into the cellar. And she's like, the silent time is here again. She won't find me here. Whatever. Don't know.
She'll go back down there 4 or 5 more times before we're out of this. So
Yeah.
just prepare yourself.
He takes pictures of the body. We cut to the funeral. The hot stepmom is there in the background. And the whole graveyard looks like it's made from a Spirit Halloween. And just color corrected to be blue-gray. It's real strange.
Everything is blue-gray. It's terrible.
In a town of 4 people, they were all there that day for the funeral.
Yep, every one of them.
Anyway, he follows Marion into the woods. And Marion is at Mary Shaw's grave. And she just like, you've got to bury the doll. And I'm at this point, I'm like, well, it seems simple enough. Do it. And here's the thing. I think if he buried the doll, I don't think it would have made a difference.
He did bury the doll.
Yeah, like, well, but it doesn't stay buried. But like when we find out at the end what Mary's actual thing is, it's like she was just telling her this, I guess, to give him a weird message to pad out the runtime. I don't know.
Not to go too Harry Potter with this episode, she like Voldemorted herself like 107 times, right? Because she was in all the dolls or whatever.
Yeah, she made like 100 or so Horcruxes. And also, they don't say her name.
Yeah.
If she was like, I'm going to take this tongue and you can't scream, I'd probably be dead. Because girl.
Oh, that is the porn version of this, right? Like,
that's gotta be,
yeah.
That
right?
is my revenge for the children who live upstairs above us.
They're like, Mommy, what's that noise?
and you're like, that's what it sounds like when a husband pleases his wife. And then she looks over at her husband.
Shouldn't have gotten them rollerblades and a basketball. This is your doing. Anyway, she's got the most spirit Halloween of Graves from 1941.
Yeah.
Yet looks brand new.
Yeah.
Well, once you move all the fake shrubbery from around it.
Shrubbery. Yes. We cut to him racing back through town to the motel. He checks the doll. He turns it over and he's like, Billy. And then he drives it back.
Billy, you son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch, Billy. He tries to bury it in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And it seems like things are running past the car. Like it seems like spirits are afoot. But then it turns out it's just Donnie Wahlberg.
Yeah, because he's been tracking him or whatever.
He's been tracking him.
He's a detective. He's wearing a trench coat.
Yeah.
I mean, they're allowed to wear trench coats, right?
You do have the right to be an attorney if you want to.
I mean, that's part of Miranda. You have the right to a trench coat.
Who's Miranda? What's her tongue do?
Any sport coats can and will be used against you in a court of law. Anyway, they go back to the motel. The doll is there. Donnie Wahlberg's like, Pop, what's up? It's me. I'm the detective following you. Why were you burying evidence in your wife's murder case? And I was like, that's a good question, though.
You could have arrested him now. You didn't have to break into his hotel room and violate his Fourth Amendment rights.
Well, not only that, okay, not only breaking in, violating the Fourth Amendment, you are correct, but also you just watched him bury evidence in a murder case.
Yeah.
Arrest him, not just like, I'm going to see where else you go.
Yeah.
Well, he can't probably arrest him, Paige, because he's probably out of state where he has jurisdiction.
But even then, you would absolutely call the local police force to get a...
There's only 4 people, Paige. It's the coroner. He's also the police.
But here's the thing. So then that means state. So you think state troopers are not going to come out there and dig up that doll? Like,
They should have. He absolutely should have followed procedure and everybody would be alive right now.
no, I don't think that's the case. But like, that's what should have happened for this movie to make sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's like, I asked you not to leave the city, but now that we're out, let's see what happens. Like, it's just crazy.
He does like immediately roll the dice on this suspected murderer's like
Right?
crazy ass story.
He's like, I'm really into the occult, so like, I want to see this.
He's like, oh, I'm going to make the weirdest true crime fiction podcast. So let's roll
This
the
is before
dice.
that.
I know, but that's like,
He's like, I'm going to write a book. That's how old this is.
yeah.
Do you remember where you were on a day 10 years ago? This is Serial. How do you feel about this doll? Anyway, so...
And then Donnie Wahlberg was like, point on this doll where it hurt you.
He points right to that mouth. You know what I'm saying?
What that mouth do? Anyway, he's like, I'll be in the room right next door. And I'm just like, so why doesn't Jason Stackhouse just leave? Like, bro, like, what? Just wait for him to fall asleep and then go.
Yeah, it's almost like they're business partners in this new like haunting venture. Like, what are we
They're
doing?
like, we're buddy cops now.
Yes. Oh,
like,
yes. It feels like that.
If you were going to have a real movie, have a detective going after this person who in the course of it, like when he's burying the doll, some supernatural shit happens and he's like, I believe you. There's
Yes.
no way I can prove it to anybody else, but I'm in here with you. Let's do this.
I mean, in essence, they become a team from here on out for the rest of the movie
For no reason,
zero
though.
reason. Like, had that happened, I would have been like so cool with that team up. I'd have been like, oh, that's a cool twist.
Yeah.
But the way it's done in the movie makes no sense.
No. You can't have a Mikey movie with explanation. It's just like, I know you killed your wife, but like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's roll the dice on this doll.
I have a weird note, and I don't know if either of you noticed it.
Is it Pyrex based?
No.
Okay.
When he comes out of the bathroom to find that the doll is now in his room because his Fourth Amendment rights have been violated,
By the puppet.
I was hoping for some Jason Stackhouse shirtlessness, so I was looking close. He has like a full boner in this scene. Like an obvious boxer tent ass boner.
Well, Paige, he wasn't expecting Wahlberger to be there, and he was going to fuck that doll.
That doll.
Like,
But I was just like, what? And like paused it. And I was like, what?
Well, I guess you guys are not aware of the local poem.
oh God.
Mary Shaw, What That Tongue Do.
I almost want to like very quickly find it and show you to make sure I'm not crazy.
I believe
You know what, Paige? I'm going to go ahead and take your word on another man's boner. I don't need to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you,
Just
though.
look for it in that scene.
He gets a hard on for justice.
Yes. He needs his wife's murder to be solved.
Yeah.
Nothing gets me more in the mood
He
to fuck.
buried that doll.
Anyway, so for some reason the detective leaves the next day, and we will find out that it's to start digging up 100 dolls.
They got a busy week ahead of them of exhuming dolls.
This detective is not well.
And he goes and searches the room, finds the doll, takes it to the funeral home where Marion's like, you're not supposed to have that. That's an evil doll. And this is where he talks to Henry, the mortician, who basically is just like, yo, when I was a kid, my dad was a mortician, and I went and saw this lady's show. And like, it's a typical ventriloquist show or whatever, but a kid is like, I can see her mouth move. So she gets in like a fight on stage.
I do love how she's like, what was that? Michael? Or like, she like says his name. I was like, how did you know his name?
Because there's only 40 people in this town. They're all at the theater.
Well, they posit that the theater is like an attraction and a bunch of people come to the theater
Yeah.
to
It
see
It is an
her.
attraction.
You know how popular puppetry is?
I mean, Jeff Dunham seems to be doing okay for himself.
Recently?
No, not recently, thank God.
I'm sure he got enough, but like,
I
Yeah.
could see people wanting to go up there and see like what's underneath Mary Shaw. You know what I'm saying?
what you'll find is Finn Tutuola's hand controlling Mary Shaw.
I've never watched a movie with like a work lens and been like, I may have made all of these characters go get checked out. You know, I've been
Oh,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
everybody, every single person.
I'd be like, detective, you spent 4 days digging up 100 dolls. Let's get you somebody to talk to. Like, let's get you some help here.
I actually do have a little bit of respect for that because you would have to be able to sustain just such a massive level of like creepiness around you for 4 days while digging up haunted ventriloquist dolls. Like that's scary in and of itself.
They're not there. They're empty boxes, man.
Well, then he's just digging up baby coffins that are empty, and that's way worse.
But here's something even worse. I want you to think about it. How much money did that precinct spend in overtime for him to just dig up empty coffins?
I think we can very clearly see that he has been fired.
He is a man on the edge.
They were like, you just let that guy go and walk through the crime scene. You surrender your gun and your badge. And he's like, fine, but I'm going to solve this case on my own.
We actually only see him use a shotgun and never a service revolver. I think Mikey is right. He
you
has
might be
been
right,
fired
Mikey.
in the interim time period. Like he was like, Donnie Wahlberg, get on this case. And like he fucked it up and the chief kicked him off. Turn in your badge and gun. And he is like living out his Mel Gibson in the 90s moment.
I could objectively justify maybe committing every character in the film.
I don't think it would be difficult.
Yeah. Like, I would be like, okay, you may not be able to care for your wife. And also, you turned a person you buried into a ventriloquist dummy.
No, his dad did. His dad did.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
We're about to get to it in just a second. Anyway, so we find out that Mary died, but she was murdered and nobody knows who did it. And it was after the young boy who yelled in her show went missing. So everyone thought she killed that boy and then killed her. And here's what's crazy is they paint this movie like she is like avenging a wrongful death, except that she totally killed that boy. Like,
Yeah.
they were right.
Yeah.
Like, normally I can't condone vigilante justice, but they did get the right person.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And she is just haunting them because she's pissed they killed her.
Well, she's kind of a bitch.
I mean, yeah, she is like the villain for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we find out that after her death, she required that all of her dolls be buried with her, but then also that she be turned into a doll.
Weird request, but okay.
Okay.
Weird
well,
request.
you don't have to honor it.
Yeah, well, and he goes and looks into her casket because his dad is the mortician, and it falls on him and almost kills him.
Yeah.
And her face is fucked up like a doll. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Now, here's what I think. Here's a side theory that I have about this movie. I think the mortician has not been killed this entire time because his father did not participate in her murder,
I think so too.
but did honor her wishes
Yeah.
to become a doll.
I think she gave him a pass. Yeah.
Yeah. Which also makes me think that maybe Marion is a sister and that that family, she like has mercy on, I guess.
I mean, she does kill him eventually, but I think it's just because he is trying to help solve things. Right?
Yes.
It is a means to keep things under wraps more than a revenge kill. Yeah.
Right. So they're all found that he basically goes through this history of like every family linked to the people that tried to kill her are all found without their tongues. They've got crazy mouths. Your wife is the last. And he's just like, what? And then we find out that the last name of the first kid that she kills is his last name.
Yeah.
It's his great uncle is what we'll find out. And he says she won't stop killing until the screaming dies. Whatever. So he goes out to basically look at the old theater. And as he leaves, Moira watches from the window, and then behind her is just like a map of Mordor that he like drives through.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely a map of Mordor.
It is
like,
pretty crazy. Yeah.
it's the one from like the cover of the Hobbit books that they've just kind of like slightly rearranged. It was bonkers. So he drives up to the old theater. Meanwhile, the detective digs up all the dolls.
One tongue to rule them all.
One tongue to bind them.
One tongue to in the bed to core them out behind them.
Oh, nice rhyming, troubling images. Anyways.
I like write songs, Paige. I'm good at rhymes.
Yeah, all right. So he takes the boat across the moat.
Yeah, it does rhyme, and it makes it weird to say, but it's factually accurate.
Right. He climbs up into the theater. And this is the one thing where I was like, this is the only cool thing in this movie is this like lake theater, dark thing. I'm just like, all right, I'm kind of here for this.
I literally wrote that. I was like, this place is so creepy. There's no way it exists anywhere outside of this set
Yes.
that was immediately destroyed to make room for another set.
Right.
Right. And I think a lot of this was done post-prod.
Oh.
Like, I don't think they built the whole thing.
Oh, I'm sure that's true. You probably built the one set of the moat and like the front facade of the theater. And then the actual theater probably is an actual theater they dressed up, right? But
Right,
I really
yeah.
dug that set. I was like, this is convincingly creepy.
Yeah, and so he goes in and it's a theater. There's a chandelier that's fallen down a la Phantom.
Yeah.
He goes backstage and climbs up into the rafters, up behind the theater.
Which is a terrible idea to do in a dilapidated theater from 1930.
Yes.
Like, there's no way those rafters are safe.
No, but that's where her living quarters was. So she like lived behind the theater and he sees like a baby doll. And my first thought was like, they forgot to bury that one. But so as he's looking at her book of all of her writings, she passes in the mirror behind him.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That scared me.
No.
and
it did.
he turns and she's in the chair, but then she's gone.
Yeah, dude, that scared me too. Like, there are a lot of like jumpy scares in this movie that I am just like super scared of. I do not handle jump scares well.
I couldn't get there. I
couldn't get there.
I get scared by jump scares, but all of these I'm just like, oh, it's Mary Shaw.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Mikey would like some IRL Mary Shaw jump scares.
Yeah, if I could summon Mary Shaw like Bloody Mary, I'd be in the bathroom right now with the lights off. You know what I'm saying?
You just turn the lights off and be like, Heather Brooke, Heather Brooke, Heather Brooke.
Who's Heather Brooke?
She is like an old school throat goat from like this time period.
A member of the Greatest Generation?
No, she's probably a little bit older than us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you mean 2007?
Yeah, 2007. Yeah. I think that was her name. Hang on.
I'm glad Paige and I are on the same page.
I honestly don't know. I think that was her name, but I'm not 100% sure.
Anyway, so he